Hey Heather, so I watched your video and hopefully I can remember what it was that I wanted to comment on. I don't think I noticed the thing with the spiders in the chapter illustrations, but I can see why that would bother you because icky spiders gross. I can't be completely sure because it was so long ago, but I think that when I read it the first time, I did believe that it was Snape, and I didn't make the connection with Snape being in the scene with anybody else. So I was just like, oh, Snape is a bad person. He's evil. What is he doing? What is he up to? I actually didn't remember Hagrid getting Harry that gift, the flute that sounds like an owl. I guess that's an interesting gift. I'm pretty sure, though, that didn't happen in the movies. If it did, I don't remember it then either. I'm actually just now noticing that you labeled your video and you've been saying the Philosopher's Stone, which I know is what they call it in the UK. I'm curious if you have like a different edition than I do, because mine says the Sorcerer's Stone, and I know the US movie is the Sorcerer's Stone. So I don't know if you did that intentionally, but I guess let me know in your next video. You also mentioned something about a sword, and unless you're talking about the Sword of Gryffindor in like the second book and somewhere towards the end, I don't know what other sword you're referring to. Does the sword appear in the first book? I don't think it does. And I totally get what you're saying about Filch and Mrs. Norris not being enough as far as like keeping an eye on the castle or guarding it or anything like that. But I was under the impression that that's what all the ghosts were for, that the ghosts help keep an eye on everything. I don't know how many ghosts there are total, but I feel like there's a good handful or more of them. So in chapter 11, they're at the Quidditch game where, like you already said, they think that Snape is trying to put a spell on Harry and cause him to hurt himself. But aside from that, throughout the book and also in this chapter, one of the things that I'm kind of seeing from a different perspective is how much they are not taking Hagrid as any kind of form of authority, because he keeps telling them, let this go, forget about what you saw, stop digging into it, and they really have no respect for him whatsoever. So they're just like, well, we found this out, and guess what else we found out? And they just keep like overriding what he's saying. And I know that in the movies they kind of make it humorous, but it feels very disrespectful in the books that they really just don't see him as any kind of position, and Hagrid, they don't see Hagrid in any kind of position of authority where they feel like they have to listen or they should listen to him, and that's unfortunate. In chapter 12, I absolutely love the mention of the sweaters and the fact that Harry got his own, that Molly made him one to kind of make him feel like part of the family. And I don't know if you've seen that Torrid's selling them, but I ended up getting the one with the R on it for Ron, and they do have Harry's, although the one that's for Harry is in blue instead of green like in the book. I don't know why they made that change, but the blue looks pretty good. I also have a miniature mirror of Erised right there, if you can see it. You can't really get upset at Harry for getting obsessed with the mirror because, I mean, he's seeing his family. And, you know, here's a boy who's grown up without his parents, and all he knows about them is hearsay, what he hears from other people. So I'm sure if I were Harry, I would go back night after night after night. And I think, you know, obviously Dumbledore knew that, which is why he moved the mirror at some point. But you just gotta feel bad, I guess. So in chapter 13, Harry finds out that in the next game that Snape is going to be refereeing, and Hermione and Ron are trying to talk him out of it, telling him he should pretend to break his leg and some silly things like that. But this is also the chapter where he finally realizes where he's heard Nicholas Flamel's name. It was in front of his face. Like, they've probably looked at that friggin' chocolate frog card so many times. Poor Neville is getting harassed by Malfoy and Crabbe and Goyle. Though I didn't remember the fight that they got into and that he started like hitting them back and tackling them and stuff when Ron was fighting with them, so that was kind of interesting. Anyway, they assume that Snape's trying to steal the Sorcerer's Stone. I'm sure I thought the same thing on my first read through. I really didn't make the connection that Quirrell was in the majority of those Snape scenes, so... I know that I keep making references to the movies, and that's because as I'm reading, I have all these visuals, and of course those visuals are pulling from the memories of watching the movie, and then occasionally I'll come across parts where I'm like, hey, it's empty, there's no visual for that. So I'm like, is there really no visual for that? Did they not include that in the movie? When I saw the movies, I hadn't read the books like right before, so I don't even think I ever made the comparison between what I read and what I saw. I just thought the movies were great. I thought they were a good adaptation, though I have heard complaints from people saying, oh, you cut this out, you cut that out, and I was just like, I don't even know how they remember that. But in chapter 14 in particular, I am kind of interested in possibly rewatching the movie because I know that Norbert's in the movie. I know the little dragon's in the movie. I remember him setting Hagrid's like beard on fire. I remember him heating up the egg. I remember all that. What I don't remember is the dragon biting Ron. I don't remember him being in the hospital. I don't remember Malfoy visiting him. But all of that was so interesting to reread in the book because there's just so many pieces there with Malfoy finding out that they were going to give the dragon to Charlie and him getting busted. Like, was that in there? I feel like they alluded to the dragon being sent to Charlie in the movie, but I don't remember them going to meet anybody to give them the dragon or anything like that. But also McGonagall yelling at Malfoy and telling him what he was saying was absolute rubbish. Like, that just feels so familiar. So there's such a disconnect for me. So anyway, I understand that a movie can't possibly have like everything in it, but it's interesting just to kind of observe the pieces they remove and how they tie up loose ends and stuff like that. And I do want to rewatch the movie, but I'm really enjoying rereading the books because there's just so much detail that gets lost in your own memory and then also, you know, in the movie. So I love seeing all these new threads and stories and little things that are happening and interactions between the characters that really give them all that weight. I just really appreciate the detail. So Norbert was a bit of a terror, and it looks like he may have also hurt Fang. Is that why Fang's tail is all taped up? Poor Fang. He didn't deserve it. Can you imagine having an invisibility cloak? I feel like I have so much anxiety that I wouldn't even be able to use it because I would so be freaking out thinking that I was going to get busted. Like, it seems deceitful. I don't know if I could do it. But if I did have an invisibility cloak, God, that's hard to say, I wouldn't leave it on a tower. So it looks like that's it for chapter 14. We only have 3 more chapters left, and I know you and I discussed possibly doing another buddy read in the upcoming months, so you guys can stay on the lookout for that. If anybody is still watching, be sure to let me know when the last time you watched or read the first Harry Potter book was, and you can leave that in the comments below. Please be sure to subscribe, and don't forget to hit the bell to be notified when I upload new videos. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.